Consistently sure is a big one because, anything you're doing, you're just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks. So the more stuff you
Welcome
throw
to
at the
Behind
wall,
the Frame, where we go beyond the LinkedIn bios and Instagram highlight reels to talk about what really happens when you're building something from scratch. I'm Jay Duffy, co-founder of Frame Wealth Partners, business owner, husband, dad, and guy who still wonders if winging it counts as a legitimate growth strategy. Spoiler, it does sometimes. Join me and my amazing co-hosts, Morgan Watson and Annette Quigley, as we sit down with someone who's built a business or is knee-deep in the messy middle of it. And we talk about the real stuff, the pivots, the late nights, the wins no one celebrated, and the lessons no one warned them about. So grab a coffee or something stronger. We're going behind the frame.
Welcome back to Behind the Frame, a podcast where we work with business owners to help understand and what it takes to grow a business. I believe this is podcast 22, kind of crazy. So before we get started, we always like to kind of talk about the week before. What was a big win? So Annette, last week, big win, momentary lapse of reason, or I'm too old for this, kind of what happened last week?
So actually this weekend, because it was the first nice weekend we've had in a long time, I ventured into the pool, did a little bit of relaxing, but realized I'm too old to have a cocktail on a Sunday night. And I'm also too old to not wear sunscreen. So I had a little bit of sunburn, but it was fun. It was good family times and it was, well intended. And I used it for the purposes that I intended, which was relaxing. So.
Well, good. Well, yeah, it was interesting for me. Last week, we had podcast last week, and I said, my weekend win was we finally got all three of our kids back together. So our oldest two are in college. They came home, our youngest sophomore in high school, and absolute favorite thing in the world is to sit at the dinner table and just talk as a family. So we had that all week. Sunday had to take Meryl back to college.
Yep.
So she's part of her major. She has to do lab work all over the summer. So it was a great 1 week. So I don't know if it was so much of a weekend win, but a weekend sad, but it makes you appreciate the wins. So,
Yeah,
it was a
priceless.
So yeah, Dominic, before we get started, any good things over the weekend? Any weekend wins for you?
Yeah, I had a couple shows on Friday and a show on Saturday. They all went well. And then got to celebrate that at the Orioles game yesterday, where my fiance had a work event and they had an open bar. So I took advantage of that, and I'm feeling it today.
Definitely one of those, I'm too old for this anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yes, it happens.
well, we're really excited to have you. Annette, if you want to introduce Dominic.
Yeah, for sure. So I've had the pleasure of knowing you for many, many years now. So today we are joined by comedian Dominic Solesky. He's known online as Solesky Who. And basically your comedy at this point has reached millions. And, through your viral skits and then, of course, your stand-up performances and just your social media content in general. So to me, what makes comedy so amazing is you get paid to say stuff that like Morgan and I would have to apologize for. But in addition, if you are rejected, it's like immediate and it's public. So part of your experience when I'm sure you've had it happen where you practice a joke and it just doesn't land well, it misses, the audience. But part of your experience of being a comedian and just in the entertainment, business in general is the resiliency you have to have. You have to just keep on keeping on. And wanted to talk a little bit, about that, and kind of what inspired you to do this. Did you have family support all along the way? I feel like your parents right now are some of your biggest fans, but
Yeah.
Maybe wanted you to go on another path in the beginning because it's a tough, industry. So welcome, Dominic, to Behind the Frame.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So tell us, not the typical career path, so to speak, on comedy side. So when did that kind of bug hit you? When did you decide this is really something I want to do?
I don't know. I started making videos online just randomly. I would make them on Snapchat, like pretty much just for my friends. And then I would I posted one randomly on Twitter and it just went super viral back in like 2017. And then I just would post more and more randomly just for fun. And then it started getting to a point where it was consistently going viral. And that's when I was like, I could probably monetize this, or maybe I want to try stand-up. And then so 2 years ago, I actually tried stand-up for the first time and fell in love with it. And then I was like, all right, I think I can actually do this if I just keep going at it.
Was there a specific comedian? I know your dad was like a big Sam Kinison fan, but is there a specific, because I kind of see that sometimes in some of your, videos, but But is there any comedian that kind of inspired you to do this that you look after?
Probably just like it's more so just comedians that I enjoy watching, like Mitch Hedberg and Shane Gillis, that I kind of fell in love with it that way. Nothing really, I guess, particularly inspired me to go after it. It just more so was something that I enjoyed doing, and then once I started doing it for real, that's when I kind of got the bug to keep chasing it.
So how does that transition go from, all right, I'm kind of, so to speak, as you mentioned earlier, in my safe space, I'm online, I can do it. I don't see those interactions right away. I get the good feedback, and obviously you get kind of the bad feedback too. But transitioning to really going live in front of people, how long did it kind of take you to talk yourself into it, and what that looked like?
It took a while, actually. I for a few years I had wanted to do it, and I was always like, I'll do it eventually, but I would never like find the opportunity to do it. And then my cousin did an open mic one week, and then I was like, all right, well, if you're gonna do it, I'm freaking. You're not funny at all. So I was like, all right, I'll go do it. And then he invited me to that open mic, and then ever since then I've been doing it like minimum once a week, but usually more times than that. And but the feedback thing that you were talking about, it is weird because when you're doing, online videos, you don't know if a video flops, it's like, whatever, didn't do well. But then, you notice it when you flop on stage because you got to walk off and go, oh, God.
Is there a time it could still happen today, but
Oh,
was there a
it
time
happens all the
earlier
time.
in your career where you were like, you just bombed even the set, let alone a joke? Like, do you learn from it, or do you have that feeling of I'm not cut out for it, I'm not going to do it again?
Yeah, you kind of learn from, I guess at open mics, I feel like everyone bombs at open mics because it's just other comedians there that are not really listening to you. They just want to get up there and tell their jokes. So you kind of get used to bombing that way. And if you do get a laugh, you go, oh man, I killed it. But when you do a show and you bomb that happened to me the first time that I actually like got passed at a comedy club, and I did a show, and it was like a Tuesday night show, big crowd. I was like, man, I'm going to murder. And I got up there and bombed and didn't get a single laugh for 5 minutes. And that was where I was like, all right, back to the drawing board. I got to actually focus now.
Yeah. It goes from it's all good in my head. So in that instance, did you have to kind of get it together and then keep going, or was that your allotted time period?
You mean for the set?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, after that, I kind of just had to realize, like, it was so bad that another comedian came up to me and was like, let me give you some tips. I was like, damn, I did that bad? You give me tips? But I took his advice, and I just went, focused on, I knew that the jokes were good, but I was nervous, and I was getting like, not great energy on stage. So, yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
So now, since I know your parents, and again, I know that the talk originally was like, oh, I want, Dom to get a real job. And now, I feel like, your mom in particular has become one of your, biggest fans.
Oh my God, yeah.
So how did you see, is it more so because not that they didn't believe that you would be successful, but they just didn't want you to have such a hard, path potentially? Like, how has that changed over the years?
I guess when, I think once the videos got more and more consistently viral, and I was telling them, I was like, yeah, I got paid X amount of money to make this video or this, and I made, money doing this show on the weekend. Then I think they started being like, all right, he can actually make money doing this. And they went to a competition over here at Magooby's where I got second in the whole thing for the whole year. So I think that kind of was where they were like, all right, he's actually good at this. Yeah. He's not just going to be, another thing he's aiming to do that he's going to fail at for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You mentioned kind of, someone pulling you to the side and speaking with you. Really, we started this podcast. We do a lot of work with business owners, and what we've seen over and over and over again, successful business owners typically have really good mentors that they've used. And you mentioned before, hey, I did this set, it didn't go like I wanted. And, a comedian came over and took the time to say, hey, here's some things you need to work on. How impactful was that talk? And since then, do you still have the relationship with that person, or do you have other mentors you kind of go to?
I wouldn't even necessarily say like I think we all sort of mentor each other just as comedians. You have 40 guys that you run into at shows and stuff, and you kind of give each other pointers. And every time you get off stage, you're not going to have a completely perfect set every time. So when you're doing open mics together, you kind of go, oh, that joke was good. Maybe you should say it like this. So it wasn't really one specific person that I would say was like a mentor. It was just like, and also once you get close, you have like a certain crew that you hang out with consistently that, we write sketches together and stuff. So we kind of all just, as a collective, mentor each other.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the whole cancel culture in comedy? Because comedy aside, I mean, anyone can say anything at any given time and it's up, it's viral,
Yeah.
not for good reasons, but it's canceled this person or, so what are your kind of thoughts on that? Because I feel like it's become tougher and tougher
Yeah.
to,
I feel
say
like
things.
it was a lot more prevalent a few years ago, people getting canceled for saying things. I think it's getting more and more lenient. People are starting to get back to how it was back in the early 2000s where you could do or say whatever. I think for a good 5-year period around COVID, that was when everyone was getting canceled left and right.
Yeah.
I've made some videos that have gotten pretty close, but
Okay.
luckily nothing that's completely shut me down. But I think it's waning a bit, and it's kind of going the other way where it's getting back to how it was, and I don't think it's going to be a problem really in the future. Watch, I get canceled right after this.
Yeah.
Please no. Please no. Yeah. I mean, because I feel like it could go either way. So, I mean, I feel like maybe testing something online sometimes gives you that safety net because then okay, like you said, it pushes the envelope, but maybe now I can do it live.
Yeah, well, if I do it online though, then that's when it reaches all those people. I'm making it easier to cancel me at doing that.
Yeah.
Very true.
When you have a set or a joke that doesn't go well, is it more content or is it more the delivery, or do you find it really just depends?
Kind of both. There are some times where you try to make a joke and it's a good joke and it's good, but you don't have the delivery down right. You're saying it in a weird order, and you have to figure out how to like deliver. Obviously that's why it's called delivery, but you have to figure out how to take this joke and make it come across well, and that's sort of the hardest part of trying to get a joke good because it's a good joke, and you might have to tell it 10 times before you finally actually get someone to laugh at it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I haven't thought of it this way before, but again, going back to our side of the kind of our careers, and so much of it's about communication. And, on one part, you're like, well, communication, obviously for a stand-up comedian is huge. But again, just always constantly having to refine how to communicate with this audience. And do you find kind of different needs to communicate at different locations, or do you find it a little more universal?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the crowd heavily. Like you'll go to, I had a show at some restaurant and the show was pretty much, the crowd was just all like over 70. And I was like, they're not going to get any of these references at all. So I had to like kind of try to switch it up a little bit. And then you'll have a younger crowd where like you're trying to joke about something different and they don't really like it. Or depending on what city you go to, you could have a more liberal crowd, more conservative crowd. So you got to kind of walk the line on where you do with your political jokes. But that's sort of, yeah, it varies dependent on like the crowd and the people.
That makes sense. So I feel like you're very observant in just like everyday life. Like one of the videos that I love about, the pizza, one of your first, videos to go viral of somebody ordering a piece of pizza. So do you feel like you draw a lot of your inspiration from just kind of just everyday living and things that you see and experience, and then you kind of, make a joke out of that?
Yeah, something will just happen in everyday life, and I'll be like, oh, that'd be a funny joke, and I write it down on my notes, and then I sit in my apartment alone and film myself. How do I make this funny?
I mean, but that's a big part of what you do. So, so and the inspiration though for the pizza, was it, did I hear you say at one point it was your mom ordering a slice of pizza? Or
Well, it was, I opened the fridge and there was a sausage and mushroom pizza, and I was like, what? I never even seen her order a sausage and mushroom pizza. And I started imitating her doing it. And then, the video, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's like where you just I got progressively more and more like New York Italian guy. And then I started screaming at the end. That was just me having a manic episode. I don't even know how that became a video, but it did.
And it hit at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, what, like
that was the first
20
one.
million or something like that?
Oh,
I
it's
think
it's like hundreds of millions. If you like combine it between every time it's been posted on everywhere. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
I saw a similar one with the meat pie. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the meat
Yeah, I'm
pie.
just copying myself at this point. Just a new accent, new food.
Well, I notice, that's my question about like reading comments, because obviously I noticed that people have said, hey, do a, Jamaican accent or do this accent. So do you find that you read the comments? It could be like some for inspiration, but some for it can get into your head
Yeah.
because it might be somebody that's not saying nice things.
Yeah, I read like every comment as much as I can, unless the video goes super viral to where I can't scroll through all of them. But like, I'll go and like every comment just to keep engagement up, and I'll read them. And a lot of them are good, and then there's other ones where like I'll reply and be like, dude, shut up, loser, get off my video.
Which I guess sometimes you have to do that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess one of because when, again, you draw from personal experience.
Mhm.
So you feel like sometimes, because you're engaged now.
Yes.
So obviously, do you feel sometimes like you might have that boundary that you cross, or you're oversharing, like, your personal life or personal experiences, or she has to be along for the ride?
Yeah, I don't really talk about her too much, so I don't think I never say anything too personal that would be disparaging or anything like that. But I
Okay.
do tend to sort of focus more like outward, making jokes about things that I see rather than jokes about myself or.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
What's one of the things with kind of growing this business that you have that maybe people from the outside don't see some of the difficulty with it?
I mean, it's, a lot of people just see me making videos, but there are times where I don't have any ideas at all, and then I have to like go back and repost a video from 2 years ago or something just to keep the momentum going. And then the other part is like actually trying to monetize. It's weird, like you have to try to find companies that want to promote their business in your skit or and then a lot of times they'll even reach out to you and they'll be like, hey, we'll pay you X amount of dollars to make a skit about this. Just do whatever you want. And then when you make the video, then they go, oh, maybe tweak this, maybe say this, maybe do that. So that's the annoying part, is when other people are trying to tell you how to write a joke. I'm like, listen, you asked me to make this video. Let me make this video.
Right.
Yeah. What is your thought about, because I feel like everyone today wants to be an influencer. So I've seen, people that have started out doing funny skits,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden they transition into that space where they kind of move away from, being authentic.
Yeah.
And now they're this influencer. And it could have something to do with branding. And like you said, somebody else is inputting what to do. But what are your kind of thoughts on that?
I don't know. I never really understood how to even be an influencer. I just made funny videos, and I guess I'm technically an influencer, I guess, in a way, because I, have a bunch of viral videos and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like a lot of people just want to become influencers, but they don't really have anything to like bring to the table. They're just like, oh, look, get ready with me to get ready for work.
Right.
It's like, I don't care.
That's very true. All right. Plead the fifth.
Yeah. So, well, let's do a little bit of hot or not. So
Okay.
in this section, give you some ideas of, you can tell us this is hot in what's going on kind of in your career. It's not. And, you can give us a little more depth to it. But we talked about the counterculture and all that. Dealing with hecklers, people that either don't like what you're saying or feel like they want to be part of the show. Is that something that can help? Is that really kind of a performance killer?
It depends, because you can sort of point out something funny in a crowd. Maybe not if they're like just belligerently yelling at you, which they do sometimes. But it can be both. Sometimes it can trip you up and it can throw you off your game, and you focus too much on it, and then everyone else sort of starts to notice, like, geez, he's letting that get to him. Other times you can flip it around, and other time they help. Like sometimes they're funny hecklers, and they like yell out a good line, and you go, oh, or you can just make fun of them. Like this one lady at the show on Saturday had this like ridiculous sounding laugh, and I would just keep pointing it out every time. I'd be like, I'm going to make your laugh my ringtone. That's
But so when talking about the offensive, because again, you're being authentic and
Yeah.
you're seeing, and talking about things everyday life. Do you get, is it hot or not where you're like, hey, I'm going to use offensive language, and you have people that will say stuff, to you like live, like you shouldn't do that, or they kind of expect it, I guess, ahead of
Yeah, a lot of times they expect it. Every now and then you'll see somebody that gets offended by something, and you're like, why are you even here? This is
Right.
like, but that's pretty rare, honestly. I don't really run into that too much.
Good.
All right. So we're going to do our plead the fifth. We're going to ask you questions. I'm not going to tell you how many. Usually there's one or two kind of zingers in there. You get one plead the fifth. So you
Jeez.
don't have to answer. The rest of them you have to go. You want to start us?
Yep. The most overrated thing happening in comedy right now.
Oh man, I think a lot of people post like crowd work clips a bit too much, where they posting. It's not really material. It's like they go on stage and they do crowd work, and then they're basically relying on the crowd to be funny. or have a funny story, and then they post it, and then it's kind of like, dude, write a joke.
Yeah.
The Matt
Yeah.
Rifes of the world and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, gotcha.
What type of audience is the hardest to perform in front
Man, probably young women.
of? Okay.
Because a lot of times when you try to make it, I mean, they could be great too, but a lot of times they'll just, you try to make a joke about, because a lot of jokes that I make are funny to men.
Okay.
So if it's all women, I'm like, come on, guys, I promise I'm funny. This is funny.
What keeps you up at night professionally?
Having a bad set, for sure. That'll keep you up for a while. You go home and you just lay in bed and go, what? Where did I go wrong? Like,
But you feel like that still happens a lot, even at this stage? I mean, I guess it can happen to anyone.
yeah. Well, not as much at shows. I mean, yeah, it all depends, because sometimes you can have a crowd where you expecting this big thing, and then they're just tight for everyone the whole show, and then that can be kind of annoying. And then randomly you'll have a crowd where you think they're not going to be good, and then they're amazing. And then, I still go to open mics and stuff just to work out material, and those are where you have the bad sets mostly.
Yeah.
Have you ever posted something or had a joke that you thought was too offensive or kind of right at the line, and how did that reaction go?
Yeah, I've had a couple where not that I like regretted making it or anything, but there was a couple where I knew it was going to get a reaction, and it did. And then I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest like misconception is that people have about comedians? Because I feel like they probably think you're just funny all the time.
Yeah.
And you can't even.
Well,
sit
I
there
am.
and- yeah.
Well, let's be honest.
But like
Maybe
even,
other
like,
comedians. Yeah.
when you're at a big Italian dinner at your parents, or you're having a moment with your fiance. I mean, you can't be funny all the time, or maybe you can be. But I mean, what is the kind of one of the biggest misconceptions I feel like people have about comedians?
Misconceptions. Yeah, I mean, that is probably one, because there will be people that come up, oh, you're a comedian, tell me a joke. I'm like, this isn't the context or the time or place. Like, I got to set it up. I got to, this is,
I'm at the DMV. This
yeah,
is
yeah,
not
yeah.
That makes sense.
Any part of the business or any time as you've kind of grown this, you've thought, hey, this isn't going to work. And I've put all this effort in, and maybe it's not going to happen.
Yeah, every now and then you have fleeting thoughts of just doubt that are just like, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is going to plateau right here or something. But because you'll have like a stretch of time where like nothing goes viral, or like you're thinking, is it the algorithm? Is it me? What's going on? But overall, I think I do a pretty good job of just knowing that, like, just keep doing what I'm doing and trust the process, because it's slowly grown over the last, 5 or 6 years that I've been making videos online consistently. So that, I kind of just have to tell myself that keep working, and it'll keep growing.
Yeah. Any advice you'd give, again, business owners, other people trying to get into this career? Obviously, the online, with you, Matt Rife kind of came on that way. What's the key? Is it just consistency? Is it, trying to do a little bit more on a weekly or monthly basis? What does that look like a little bit?
Consistently sure is a big one, because, anything you're doing, you're just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks. So the more stuff you throw at the wall, the more stuff that's going to stick. And social media specifically, I would say you really have to study what makes a video go viral, like the like ratio, and you copy other people's videos that are going viral. Like the first 3 seconds, you have to have a hook that keeps them engaged and all that kind of stuff. So that's the biggest advice, is just study your surroundings, study other people that have been successful in what you're trying to do. And then, maybe not copy it, but sort of emulate it.
Okay.
Do you feel like comedy has helped you get through like some tough times in your life?
Not really, no.
You're like, nope, it's just a job.
Yeah,
It's just a
just,
job.
it's
Well,
fun.
I know that, obviously I know you from, your experience earlier on with the pit bull. And I know you've talked about this many times on many different, podcasts. But for those that don't know, you were basically almost killed by this pit bull. And obviously you were young. So do you feel like you took anything away from that? Or do you feel like you don't remember it as much? Like, did it change you? Or, because I mean, I know, like your dad said, I mean, you guys still love dogs.
Yeah.
So it didn't change that. But
Yeah, it just made me grateful, and I guess less afraid to take risks, because I'm like, I could have died at 10, so I may as well live it up and like take some risks and not be boring.
Yeah.
sounds like a plan.
So some bonus questions. All-time favorite comedian?
I think the one that I quote all the time that I always show people as jokes is Mitch Hedberg. He's like a one-liner. It's very different style of comedy from me.
Yeah.
But
That sedate kind
yeah,
of. Yeah.
deadpan, just like one-liners that, he's my favorite joke writer because he just does all these like rapid fire absurdity things, and then you think to yourself, like, how do you even write that?
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense. It's funny.
Yeah, just the rapid thoughts that are just coming out
Yeah.
of his brain. Yeah.
So what's been a most overrated comedian?
I'll plead the fifth on that one.
All right, that's fair.
I don't want to get in trouble. I mean, want me to open for him one day. I don't know.
That's very true. That's a good point. What about the funniest kind of real life interaction that you've had with like a fan that's come to your show?
Oh man, one time this guy he came out he saw me on Instagram and came out and like was really excited to meet me and everything, and then he just got belligerently drunk by the end of the show. And my uncle was also there, and they almost got into a fight because the guy was so drunk.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the most ridiculous audience member encounter.
Will people like at this point, will they ask you for like autographs and things like that? I mean,
Not autograph. They'll want like a picture or something, but autographs, no. I'm actually annoyed no one's asked me for an autograph. Man, to bring it up.
we'll get one.
I want to
before we
sign
wrap
one.
up the podcast. We'll get your autograph one.
I'm gonna sign the
on
desk.
the podcast notes.
So, as this career has grown and grown, and again, millions and hundreds of millions of views, is it more at this point about kind of reaching where you see success? Is it more about kind of that connection? What kind of drives you right now?
It is pretty addicting to have a video go viral. It's very addictive when you get to see all those numbers and people, laughing in the comments. I think it's just the joy of getting a good joke or telling a good joke that people enjoy. That's kind of what keeps me going because it's fun. That's really it.
Yeah. No, that's great.
That is great. So Dominic, I mean, I appreciate you being so open and honest with us, and how can we, check you out? Like, give us all of your information, so our viewing audience, not nearly as many as you have, but we have a nice viewing audience. But
We got
how
11
can
family members.
Yeah,
so
there we
11
go.
family members. But how can they check you out? Like, what are your, upcoming shows, or how can they find you on like places like Instagram?
It's probably, the best way to just find would be social media, and I post about everything from there. So on all social media, it's Solesky Who, SOLESKYWHO. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and then we'll take it from there.
Yep. And any upcoming shows this weekend, or?
Nothing planned for this weekend. I have a couple. I have some in Pennsylvania and Virginia in a couple weeks, and then in August I'm going to be in St. Pete, Florida for a comedy festival that I'm on, so that'll be fun.
Nice. Very nice.
So with all of, I would think that just the sheer scheduling part of this would be really, really difficult. I mean, because, how do you decide, is the location worth the trip and the cost, or is it still kind of, I'll go anywhere at any time to try to grow it?
Yeah, I'm still at the go anywhere, anytime kind of
Okay.
level. Like, as long as I don't even need to be getting that much money, as long as I know it's going to be a good show and there's going to be an audience there and stuff, I'll do it pretty
Okay.
much.
All right, nice.
Nice.
Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Again, congratulations. What a tough career to get into and not only survive, but thrive. And look forward to seeing where it takes you.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Dominic.